To save money on rent, I decided to get a roommate. That roommate turned out to be Camille. She used to be a rich, high society girl, but her family just went completely bankrupt. Now she is broke, desperate, and treats me like I am covered in germs. On her first day, I tried to be a gentleman and help carry her giant suitcase. Instead of saying thank you, she asked, "Did you wash your hands?" She totally left me hanging. I had to awkwardly step aside and watch this tiny girl struggle with her heavy luggage. She looked at my apartment like it was a garbage dump. To be fair, it kind of was. That night, I went out for drinks to forget my frustration. When I got home late, I was shocked. The apartment was spotless, the floor was shiny, and all my messy papers were neatly stacked. I thought, wow, living with a clean freak might actually be great. I was very wrong. The next morning, my USB drive was gone. This wasn't just any flash drive. It held my life's work and years of ideas. I asked Camille if she had seen it. She looked right at me and casually said, "I threw it out. Years of my hard work were just gone." Her excuse? It looked cheap. She would buy me a new one. And she joked that it was probably just full of adult anime anyway. After that, we had a huge 10-minute argument to set some house rules. We agreed that common areas are shared and bedrooms are private. However, she demanded total ownership of the balcony to dry her laundry. The funny part, my bedroom gets all the sunlight, while her balcony is completely dark. Because I gave up the sunny spot, she agreed to pay the entire water and electricity bill. I felt like I won, but later I heard her crying in her room and started to feel like the bad guy. If I thought the crying meant she would be nicer, I was wrong. On Saturday morning, she kicked my bedroom door open while I was sleeping. When I told her to knock, she just stared at me and made fun of my cartoon boxers. I am a 6-foot-tall man, and I turned bright red. She laughed at me, grabbed some clothes hangers, and ran out tripping over her own feet. Since that day, my privacy is completely gone. Normal roommates respect boundaries, but Camille ignores them entirely. Now she constantly bursts into my room without asking, or accidentally walks into the bathroom while I am showering and screams at the top of her lungs. My life is chaotic now, but hey, at least the rent is cheap. I still don't get why Camille screams at the slightest thing. For someone who used to be rich, her life skills are non-existent. When she does laundry, it's a total gamble, and her cooking is an absolute disaster. She insists on doing everything herself, but almost burned down the building. Every single time, I have to go into full dad mode and teach her step by step. The only saving grace is that she learns fast. Well, mostly. The second time she cooked, she learned not to throw water on an oil fire. Instead, she poured liquid laundry detergent directly into the pan. Genius. On July 16th, her birthday rolled around. I only knew because she woke me up acting like a demon-possessed cat, pacing the living room and whispering like an anime villain, "Today is my birthday. Do not work overtime." By the time I got mad enough to yell, she had bolted out the door. She left her bedroom door open, and I noticed her SAG dinner from the night before. A half-eaten bun, a tiny bowl of porridge, and 2 miserable boxes of takeout veggies. Suddenly, I felt a weird urge to do something nice. I bought groceries, calculated when she'd get off work, and cooked a massive meal while calling myself a total simp the whole time. When she walked in, her jaw hit the floor. I had 4 dishes, soup, and a cute little cake ready. She stood there, paralyzed, and asked if I had friends coming over. I told her someone was celebrating a birthday, and she gasped, wondering how I knew. I told her straight up that her whispering was loud enough for the whole building to hear. She got quiet and told me it was the first time anyone had celebrated her birthday since her dad passed away. Camille is gorgeous, but the magic disappears the moment she opens her mouth. Still, after we ate, she fell asleep right on the couch, using my thigh as a pillow. I didn't sleep a wink that night, not because I was trying to be smooth, but because my leg went so numb I thought it was gonna fall off. After that, the ice melted. We became total couch potatoes, sharing snacks and binge watching TV. She liked how chill I was, and I just liked being near her pretty face. Then came the ultimate disaster. One afternoon, she was showering while I was eating in the living room. Suddenly, she shrieked that the water heater was shocking her and ran out of the bathroom completely naked. My brain instantly blue screened. I froze for 3 seconds, looked away, and told her to put some clothes on so we could figure out the electrical leak later.
later. She was so mortified after that, she tried to avoid me in the hallway for days. About 3 months later, karma hit me. My stomach started hurting like a drill was boring into my gut. As I was struggling to crawl to the hospital, Camille appeared out of nowhere. Her hands were freezing and shaking as she grabbed my face. We live on the 6th floor, and to this day, I don't know how this tiny girl found the strength to drag me down 6 flights of stairs. She forgot her phone in the panic, so she literally carried me through the dark streets until we reached the ER in the middle of the night. By the time my IV drip finished, the sun was coming up. The doctor said it was just a severe stomach cramp. Exhausted, I thanked her and told her to get some sleep before work. She just smiled and told me not to worry because she had already called in sick.
A few days later, I was fully recovered. To show my appreciation, I spent the whole afternoon cooking a massive meal. Camille ate like I was a culinary god and said, "This is so good. Can you cook for me for the rest of my life?" My brain went into overdrive and I thought I just secured a girlfriend, but it was a plot twist. She meant it literally. She wasn't looking for a boyfriend, she wanted a lifetime subscription to a personal chef. She canceled her food delivery apps and glued herself to me every night, saying it was cheaper and healthier if I cooked. I complained, but every time I remembered her carrying me down 6 flights of stairs to save my life, I flipped that frying pan a little faster. Just as we got into a nice rhythm, things took a dark turn. One evening, dinner was ready, but she didn't come out. I opened her bedroom door and found her face down in her pillow, crying her eyes out. It turned out corporate life was brutal for a former rich girl. Camille was fused to work unpaid overtime, and because she had taken a day off to save my life, her trash manager started bullying her. He was trying to make her quit so the company wouldn't have to pay her severance. I told her to leave it to me. I found out the company was a shady microloan agency, and the next morning I pulled off the ultimate hustle. I put on a freshly ironed suit, a fake Rolex, and walked into her company's lobby acting like a billionaire. I demanded to see the boss without an appointment. A chubby manager came out, practically drooling when I told him a fake name and said I wanted to invest $2 million. For a week, I played this man perfectly, talking about business integration and reciting classical philosophy. He was so intimidated he didn't even ask for my phone number. Since I work in social media, I use my online network to post about how the company treats its workers. The internet did not disappoint. A massive crowd of internet trolls and random people rallied together online, ready to cause trouble for the company. With the power of an online mob backing me up, I delivered the final blow. The terrified manager called me, and I went straight to the point. Fire Camille officially, pay her every cent of her severance, and the scary people stopping by her office will disappear. Less than 5 minutes later, Camille came running into our apartment jumping for joy. The manager had folded and transferred the cash. The next day, we went to the office to sign the paperwork. The manager looked terrified when he saw me, and Camille was completely speechless. For the next week, Camille stayed home to rest, eating my cooking and watching TV, though she constantly complained that my food made her gain weight. She started sending out resumes again, and I actually thought about teaching her how to do social media so we could stay home together every day. Having a gorgeous girl around the house put me in a great mood. Right when I was about to tell her how I felt, reality hit us like a flashbang. Camille got a new administrative job, but it was a 1-hour subway ride away. That night we went out to celebrate, and I tried to play it cool by asking when she was moving out. She looked confused and told me she never said she was moving. She argued that her old job was a 40-minute commute anyway, adding, "What if another boss bullies me? I need my big brother to protect me." My heart did a little flip. She wanted to stay. But at that exact movie-perfect moment, our landlord walked up to our table. He told us he just sold the apartment and needed us both to pack up and move out immediately. Talk about terrible timing. We sat there frozen. Since we couldn't live there anymore, I asked where she would go. She decided it was more practical to move closer to her new job, while I planned to move to the cheap suburbs to focus on my creative work. Neither of us brought up finding a new place together. It was an unspoken, realistic agreement. We hadn't known each other very long, and everything had moved too fast. If we had just had 6 more months, I think I would have found the courage to ask her to keep living with me. I took a deep breath and made one last attempt, suggesting we move near her new job together to split the rent. Camille hesitated, looking guilty, and admitted she had already agreed to room with a new girl from her department. On moving day, I carried her heavy bags out one last time,
bringing our story full circle. She stood in front of me, gently dusted some lint off my shoulder, looked up at me, and whispered, "Hey, do you want to hug goodbye?" I just laughed, brushed it off, and said, "Nah, that's cringe. Catch you later." And just like that, she was gone.
Despite my cool act, my brain panicked. I instinctively pulled Camille into a massive, desperate hug. As her moving truck drove away into the sunset, it felt like my new feelings were brutally ripped out by the roots. I don't even remember how we said goodbye, but she squeezed me back hard. Since that day, there was absolute radio silence. Our chat history completely froze on September 6th. The next day, I packed up my own life. A crew of my buddies helped me move into a new place. By the time we finished, it was pitch black, so we hit up a late-night street barbecue for skewers and beers. The familiar grease and alcohol finally brought me back to earth. Over a beer, my buddy asked, "Hey, Adrian, what happened to that smoke show roommate of yours?" I sighed and told him she moved to the Sifong district for work. He squinted at me and said, "Tell me the truth. You're still thinking about her, aren't you?" "Bro, shut up. You're talking crazy," I shot back. Then he dropped a major logic bomb. If you're over her, why did you just rent a 2-bedroom apartment all by yourself? Reality hit me like a physical hammer. He was right. I hadn't even realized it myself, but I had picked a ridiculously expensive neighborhood that happened to be super close to her new office. Deep down, my subconscious was still waiting for Camille to reappear. Life went back to normal, but habits die hard. I was still cooking way too much food out of pure muscle memory. I was also regularly deep cleaning the apartment, making sure that empty second bedroom was absolutely spotless. A few weeks later, the weather outside was terrible, with loud thunder and torrential rain. I was huddled in front of my computer trying to write a horror script. To get into character, I bent over to look under my own bed. I didn't see a ghost, but I saw something shocking. My lost USB drive, the one she supposedly threw in the trash months ago, was just sitting there in the dust. Before I could even process it, someone started aggressively pounding on my door. I ran over and ripped it open. Standing there looking like a literal drowned rat was Camille. She looked up at me, shivering, and panted, "Are you gonna help me with my bags or what?" I was totally dumbfounded. "Camille, what are you doing here?" She pushed past me, complaining immediately. "Ugh, the rental agency at my last place was a scam. Look, I'll just Venmo you the rent directly, okay? By the way, what a weird way to welcome your favorite roommate. I need a shower before I freeze." "Wait," I yelled. "The water heater has an electrical leak." She rolled her eyes. "No, it doesn't. I already tested it like 5 times. I stared at her. "How did you even find my exact apartment?" She casually explained that she asked the guy at the rental agency since we use the same company. Camille happily marched straight into the spare bedroom like she owned the joint. I collapsed onto the living room couch, my fingertips still cold from the rainwater on her jacket. Shaking myself out of it, I went to the kitchen to reheat the mountain of extra food I'd made. She looks tiny, but she eats like a competitive trucker. A few minutes later, Camille walked out wearing fresh pink pajamas. She flopped onto the couch, her eyes locking onto the hot food. "Oh my god, it's still warm." I technically already ate, but it smells so good I can manage a few more bites. She grabbed the chopsticks and started inhaling the food like we hadn't just spent 2 weeks in a tragic silence. It was like she never left. I sat across from her with a smug smile. "Hey," I teased, "didn't you say you and your new roommate were besties? Why'd you suddenly move out in a monsoon?" Her chopsticks froze and the tips of her ears turned bright red. "That roommate was toxic," she pouted, her mouth flaring up. "The very first day she complained I took too long in the shower. Then she complained I made too much noise waking up at night. As she kept listing complaints, her voice got quieter and she buried her face toward her plate. My heart instantly melted. I reached out and aggressively ruffled her hair. "Look, come back whenever you want," I said softly. "The second bedroom was just sitting here empty anyway. It's way too quiet without you." She peeked up. "Really? You don't think I'm a massive pain?" "Oh, you're absolutely a pain," I laughed. "You can't cook, you have 0 life skills, and you constantly break my stuff. But hey, you're pretty, so I guess I'll tolerate it. Under 3 conditions." She perked up. "Name them." "First, no entering my office or touching my stuff without permission, especially my scripts and my USB drive. Second, I cook, but you do the dishes, wipe the table, and take out the trash. Third, you don't touch the shower until I check the water heater first. We are not having another naked running incident." "Yes, Cap'n, promise," she cheered, saluting solemnly. "I'll be a good girl, I swear." She sounded super confident, but I knew I could barely trust half of what she was saying.
In about 3 days, she'd definitely start testing my boundaries again. But looking at her heading into the kitchen to start washing the dishes, I realized I didn't care. Having a loud, chaotic, rich girl running around making a mess was a million times better than living in a silent, lonely apartment. The chef was back in business, and the roommate chronicles were officially back on. I leaned against the kitchen doorframe, watching her attempt to do the dishes. Her technique was totally messy, but she was completely focused, scrubbing those plates like she was handling active explosives. I smirked and asked, "So, real talk, how did you even know I moved here? Did the real estate agent give you my exact address? I thought they had a confidentiality policy." She flipped her damp hair, looking way too proud of herself. "Oh please, I harassed that poor agent for an hour and bought him a bubble tea. I told him I was your bestie, we had a tiny lover's quarrel when we roomed together and I just wanted to make up." He folded instantly. He even told me that when you moved in, you specifically asked for a 2-bedroom and left one empty. He knew right then you were waiting for me to reappear. "Okay, do not listen to him, he's lying," I stuttered, acting completely defensive. "I just wanted a bigger place, one room to sleep in and the other to use as an office. It was purely practical. I was not waiting for you." She smirked. "Oh really? Then who was that guy back at the old apartment who asked if we should move together?" "Who? Never heard of him," I said, completely shameless. "Alright shorty, stop living in the past. Go dry your hair before you catch a cold. If you end up in the hospital again, I am not carrying you down 6 flights of stairs." Even though I was talking trash, my body moved on its own. I grabbed a hairdryer and stood behind her on the couch. Camille looked surprised for a second, but then she sat there quietly like a good little cat. My fingers ran through her long hair as the warm air blew through the strands. It was incredibly soft, and the apartment was completely silent except for the gentle hum of the dryer. In that moment, a realization hit me. I am hopelessly whipped. The next morning, I woke up to a weird noise in the kitchen. I walked out and Camille was hovering over the stove with a frying pan looking dangerous. I instantly panicked. Whoa, step away from the vehicle. The last time you cooked, you almost committed arson. Get out, let the professional handle this. Give me 10 minutes. Camille immediately backed away to the kitchen door. Leaning against the frame, she stared at me with giant starry eyes like I was her personal superhero. "Adrian, how do you know how to do literally everything? You can cook, you can fix things, you protect me from toxic bosses, you're actually too powerful." Her compliments threw me off a bit, but I kept my hands moving, trying to look cool. I fried up 2 eggs, toasted some bread, and warmed up 2 glasses of milk. Boom. Gourmet breakfast was served. Camille sat at the table and began absolutely devouring it, making happy noises. "Oh my god, this is incredible. It's way better than anything outside. Can I eat your breakfast every single day from now on?" I shrugged. "Depends on my mood. If I'm grinding on my horror scripts, you're back on food delivery. Don't rely on me." She looked up and hit me with a smile so bright, the morning sunlight hitting her face literally blinded me. Right then, it clicked. This is it. This is the peak peaceful life. 1 apartment, 2 people, 3 meals, 4 seasons. Breakfast in the morning, coming home to each other at night. And just like that, our cozy little routine became official. Camille's new admin job was a standard 9 to 6 grind with the occasional overtime. Every morning, I'd have breakfast ready 10 minutes before her alarm. She'd inhale it and sprint out the door. By the time she got home at night, dinner was already on the table, and she actually kept her promise. Every single night, she'd handle the dishes, wipe down the tables, and tidy up the living room. Sure, she'd still have her clumsy moments and drop things, but compared to the girl who used to wash her frying pan with laundry detergent, it was massive progress. Meanwhile, I was working from home as a paranormal social media creator, writing spooky articles, drawing illustrations, and editing videos. Our days were peaceful, regular, and simple. When she got home early, she'd just chill on the couch, reading a book or playing on her phone, so she wouldn't disturb my workflow. Sometimes she'd quietly bring me a glass of warm water. But inside this cozy, peaceful routine, the romantic tension started getting ridiculously thick. It was like a thin sheet of glass separating us. Neither of us wanted to smash through it, but we could both feel the vibe changing. For example, at night, we'd sit together on the couch watching TV, and she'd unconsciously lean her head right onto my shoulder. And the second a jump scare popped on screen, she would completely lose her mind, grab my arm for dear life, and bury her entire body into my chest, shaking like a leaf, all while yelling over the audio, "I'm literally not scared. I'm literally not even flinching." Yeah, sure you are, bestie. Just keep holding on. When I work late editing videos, she quietly shows me she cares. She leaves the living room light on, places a warm glass of milk on my desk, and sneaks back to her room to sleep. On rainy days, I always check the clock when she finishes work. grab an umbrella and run to meet her at the subway station. The second she sees me, she locks onto my arm and hops through the puddles with a huge smile, like a kid. On weekends, we barely leave the apartment. It is peak cozy life. I work on my horror scripts while she deep cleans or tries to bake snacks. Her baking fails most of the time, but I am always the designated guinea pig who tests her food first. Last Saturday, I got so focused on editing a video that I completely forgot to eat lunch. Camille noticed I was starving, so she sneaked into the kitchen, watched the tutorial online, and tried to make wontons from scratch. When I finally came out of my office, I found a plate of the most deformed wontons I had ever seen. She stood there in a flour-covered apron, looking incredibly anxious. Some of the wontons were torn open and the filling was falling out. I laughed, took a bite, and realized the flavor was actually good. She had just used way too much salt. I smiled, told her it wasn't bad, but to use less salt next time, and finished the whole bowl. Seeing me clean the plate made her jump for joy. Later that afternoon, we relaxed on the balcony to catch some sun. I looked over and asked if we were good roommates now. She looked at me with an intense, sparkling gaze and said softly, "Not just the best roommates. You're my best friend." She looked like she wanted to confess something major, but hesitated. I knew exactly what she was thinking because I felt it too. We had crossed the roommate boundary a long time ago, but we were both waiting for the perfect moment to say it out loud. As autumn arrived, the weather turned freezing and gray, but our apartment felt warmer than ever. Every evening I came home, the smell of food hit me, and I had someone waiting to talk to me. The old loneliness of living alone was completely gone. I was getting dangerously attached to this routine, which also meant I was terrified of losing it. One rainy weekend, we were relaxing in the living room. I was organizing video files, and Camille was curled up under a blanket on the couch. The vibe was peaceful until she suddenly let out a heavy, heartbreaking sigh. She tossed her phone aside, pulled her knees to her chest, and buried her face, freezing completely still. I knew something was genuinely wrong. I slid over and gently tapped her back, asking softly if something happened at work. She shook her head, and after a long silence, she lifted her face. Her eyes were bloodshot and tears were spilling over. In a cracking voice, she said, "Today is the anniversary of my dad's passing." I remembered her mentioning this on her birthday. I didn't want to push for details, so I just pulled her into a tight hug and rubbed her back. Camille couldn't hold it in anymore and sobbed loudly into my chest. Holding her shaking body, a wave of pure heartbreak hit me. She acts so happy and careless on the outside, but she was carrying a mountain of pain. She used to be a pampered princess, completely sheltered by her parents. But then her dad got sick. Every penny of their savings, their house, and their business was spent trying to pay for his medical treatments, but they still couldn't save him. Overnight, she went from a girl who had everything to a solo corporate worker grinding just to survive. It was a miracle she hadn't broken down before this. She cried for a long time before she calmed down. With her eyes swollen and her red nose buried in my shirt, she whispered about her past. Her dad used to run a successful business, and they were very wealthy. Whatever she wanted, she got. Her grades were terrible, but her dad never yelled. He just wanted her to be happy. Her mom had left when she was a toddler, so it was just the two of them. 3 years ago, right when she started college, he was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. To pay for treatments, they sold everything and borrowed money from everyone they knew. On the day he died, he squeezed her hand and told her to take care of herself, to find a good guy who made her happy and not to suffer. Camille promised him she would, but the grief never left. After graduation, she couldn't stand staying in her hometown because every corner reminded her of him. She packed a bag, came to this massive city alone, found the cheapest rent possible, and forced herself to grow up. She didn't even dare call her remaining family. Terrified if they asked how she was doing, she would burst into tears. I held her closer, finally understanding why she was so defensive and picky when she first moved into my old apartment. It wasn't because she was bratty, it was her only defense mechanism left.
It turns out she didn't touch my things back at the old place just to be mean. She did it because she was deeply lonely. She just wanted someone to talk to and to feel like she mattered to another person. But then we bonded. I celebrated her birthday and fought back against her toxic boss. For the first time, Camille realized this big, cold city didn't have to be so scary. During the 2 weeks we were separated, she couldn't sleep, barely ate, and felt completely empty. Nowhere else felt like home. She only felt safe when she was with me. She poured her entire heart out, letting go of every insecurity she had been holding in. Looking at her tear-stained face, all I wanted to do was give her the world. Her goofy, careless, rich girl act was just a shield. Underneath it, she was a fragile girl who desperately needed to be loved. I pulled her close, hugged her tightly, and told her seriously, never again. From that moment on, she didn't have to survive on her own. I was stepping in.
I promised her I would take care of her, just like her dad used to. I wouldn't let her suffer, and I would never leave her behind. Camille looked up through her tears and asked, "Adrian, do you really mean that? You won't abandon me?" "I promise, I'm never leaving," I told her. "From now on, I'm celebrating every birthday with you. If someone messes with you, I'm handling it. You're not alone anymore. We're in this together forever." Camille nodded, threw her arms around my neck, and buried her face in my chest, whispering, "Okay, together forever." Just like that, the final wall between us broke down. No more awkward tension or strict boundaries. We both knew we had become irreplaceable to each other. That night, I cooked a huge feast of her favorite comfort foods. We even poured some juice to make a toast to her dad. I looked at her and said, "Every year on this exact date, I'll be right here next to you. Whenever you miss him, just talk to me. I'm listening." Camille smiled and nodded. The deep sadness in her eyes finally turned into peace. She knew she wasn't alone anymore. She had a home. Soon, winter arrived. The weather outside was freezing, but inside we had the heater on and things were incredibly cozy. Our relationship naturally upgraded from quirky roommates to a loving couple. The funny part was that neither of us had actually made it official or formally confessed. We were just casually doing everything couples do while pretending we were still just roommates. But the universe couldn't just let us be happy. A new problem was about to appear. It turns out the manager at her new company was a total creep. He constantly called Camille into his office alone for work, forced her into unfair overtime, and made her run his personal errands. Camille, trying to protect me from getting into a huge fight, endured all of it in silence without telling me anything. Until one night, Camille didn't get home until past 10 p.m., completely exhausted. You could see the injustice written all over her face. Her eyes were red-sot, and the second she stepped through the door, she collapsed straight into my arms and started crying. All right, it's time for me to step in and handle this guy. Seeing Camille break down like that made my chest tighten. I pulled her into a hug and asked what happened. When she finally stopped crying, she dropped a bomb. Her awful boss had called her into his office, cornered her, and tried to touch her. She fought him off and escaped, but the creep threatened to fire her on the spot if she told anyone. Hearing that, I was shaking with rage. My first instinct was to sprint to her office and fight him. Absolutely nobody touches my girl. Camille saw the anger in my eyes, grabbed my hand, and tried to calm me down. "Adrian, please don't do anything crazy. Don't confront him. He runs the company. We can't win. It's fine. I'll just quit and find another job." I looked at her, dead serious. "Why should you have to quit when you did nothing wrong? If he harassed you, he's going to pay. I'm handling this." I calmed her down, told her to stay home, and started planning my revenge. I didn't just run in swinging. I needed hard evidence first. I had Camille gather every creepy text, late night call log, and statement from coworkers. It turned out this guy hadn't just targeted Camille. He'd been harassing multiple women in the office for months, but everyone was too afraid of losing their jobs to speak up. Since I work in social media, I have a lot of media contacts and local bloggers. I put all the evidence into an anonymous file and sent it straight to the company's headquarters. At the same time, I had my blogger friends leak the story online to create massive noise, and I put a lawyer friend on standby to file a lawsuit. 2 days later, corporate sent an investigation team. The boss tried to deny everything, but the evidence was too overwhelming. With the internet watching, the other victims finally found the courage to stand up and testify. To save their own reputation, the company fired him immediately, issued a public apology, and promised to change things. When Camille heard the news, her eyes went wide. "Adrian, you are insane. You solved that so fast." I smirked and completely lost my filter. I mean, obviously, look whose girlfriend you are. Anyone touches you, they get deleted. The second the word girlfriend left my mouth, I realized what I had just said. My ears turned bright red and I froze. Camille was stunned for a second, but then a beautiful smile lit up her face. She stood on her tiptoes, planted a soft kiss on my cheek, and whispered, "Yup, I am your girlfriend, so you better keep protecting me from now on." My heart completely melted. Without a word, I wrapped my arms around her waist, leaned down, and kissed her for real. It was a soft, deep kiss that carried everything we had been through together. From that day on, it was official. No more just roommates excuses, no more awkward tension, and no more dodging the vibes. The roommate arc was officially cleared, and our romance arc had finally begun. With our relationship officially out of the shadows, our shared apartment became a cozy sanctuary. But because the universe loves a plot twist, it was my turn to face a massive setback. A jealous competitor maliciously mass-reported my paranormal social media account, claiming my horror content spread harmful superstition. The platform immediately shadow banned my account and deleted several of my best videos. My views crashed, my revenue disappeared, and I fell into a deep depression. I locked myself in my office all day, staring blankly at the screen and refusing to talk to anyone. Camille saw me hit rock bottom. Instead of lecturing me, she quietly went into full supportive girlfriend mode. Every day she cooked my favorite comfort meals and sat next to my desk studying the platform's terms of service like she was prepping for a major exam. She helped me audit my scripts, edit text, and stayed up all night with me to brainstorm a comeback strategy. One night, she grabbed my hand, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Hey, look at me. Do not lose heart. Your content is incredible. You just got targeted by a hater. We're going to adapt, pivot, and rebuild. It's going to get better, I promise." Having her boost my morale got my head back in the game. We optimized the channel, avoided sensitive keywords, and focused on high-quality storytelling. Camille started throwing out absolutely wild and brilliant horror concepts that were perfect for a spooky channel. The strategy worked. Our traffic didn't just recover, it skyrocketed past our old numbers, bringing in more subscribers and revenue than before the ban. I pulled Camille into a massive bear hug, overwhelmed with gratitude. I told her straight up, "You are officially my lucky charm. If you weren't here, I'd still be rotting in my chair." Camille beamed with pride and replied, "Duh, I'm your girlfriend. It's my job to help." From now on, we're a team, and we're building a better life together day by day. It made me realize that real love is about being each other's rock. When a storm hits, you have someone to hold the umbrella, and when you hit rock bottom, they jump into the trenches to pull you out. Soon, winter arrived and brought the city's first snowstorm. I decided this weekend was the perfect time to make a massive move. Even though we were together, I realized I had never given her a proper official confession with a grand gesture. She had moved into this cheap apartment and endured so much chaos with me, so I wanted to give her absolute security and let her know I was in this for the long haul. I didn't have the budget for a luxury restaurant, so I set up a romantic DIY date at home. I spent hours hanging fairy string lights across the living room and balcony. I cooked a massive feast of her favorite dishes, bought a tiny cake, and pulled out a simple silver ring. It wasn't expensive designer jewelry, but it took a huge chunk of the savings I'd been hoarding for months. It represented everything I had. The next morning, Camille walked out of her bedroom still half asleep and froze. Her jaw dropped at the romantic lighting and the mountain of food. She looked around completely dazed and asked, "Wait, what day is it today? Why did you do all of this?" I didn't say a word. I just took her hand, guided her to the table, and looked deep into her eyes with pure sincerity to deliver the speech I'd been practicing. Today isn't a holiday, and it's not a special anniversary. I just wanted to officially ask you to be mine, properly, and give you the romance you deserve. When we first started as roommates, we were literal enemies. We couldn't stand each other. But slowly, we learned who the other person really was. We stayed by each other's side, and our hearts finally aligned. I never imagined my life could become this warm and full of meaning just because of one person. Before you showed up, I thought life was just about surviving, eating, and keeping a roof over my head. But since meeting you, I finally learned what a real home feels like. I don't have millions in the bank, and I'm not a genius. I'm just an independent content creator. I can't buy you a mansion today, but I can promise you this. I will take care of you every single day. I will love you honestly. I will never let you suffer, and I will never let you feel lonely again. I'm cooking all 3 of your meals for the rest of your life, Camille. I'm staying right by your side. Camille, I love you. This isn't an impulsive decision. I've thought about this with my entire brain. Will you be my girlfriend? Will you stay with me forever? "Camille, will you marry me?" I pulled out that simple silver ring, dropped down on one knee, and looked up at her, my heart beating so loud I thought it would blow my eardrums. Camille completely froze. The waterworks started instantly. Pure happy tears. She nodded so hard I thought her head might pop off. "Yes," she choked out. "I've been ready for so long." I stood up and slid the ring onto her finger. It was a perfect fit. I smirked and told her, "All right, you're locked in now, no escape." Camille threw her arms around my neck, crying and laughing at the same time, staring at her hand like it was wrapped in diamonds. "This is the best gift I've ever received," she whispered. "It's better than all the luxury jewelry in the world." We stood by the window for the rest of the day, watching massive snowflakes blanket the city, eating comfort food and planning our entire future. There were no expensive status symbols, just pure cozy vibes. By evening, the storm cleared, leaving a flawless winter wonderland outside with the moonlight bouncing off the snow. I grabbed Camille's hand and we went down to take a walk, our boots crunching in the deep snow. We were just strolling, laughing, and joking around like old times, the freezing winter cold completely deleted by how warm we felt. Camille pointed up at the sky and cheered. "Look how round the moon is." But honestly, even the prettiest moon has nothing on this view right here. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. In that exact moment, it hit me. The peak success in life isn't money, it's finding your person in a crowd of millions. After all the weird detours, my entire future belonged to her. With the ring on her finger, our daily life upgraded from an unstable roommate trial run to a permanent partnership. Camille kept working her job, but now she always came home to a hot home-cooked meal. My paranormal channel was absolutely thriving, and the revenue was stable. We started saving aggressively and budgeting everything with one goal: putting down a down payment in exactly 1 year to buy our own house, an actual permanent place that belonged to us. Of course, we were still ourselves. She was still a chaotic klutz who lost her keys every 5 minutes, and she still complained that I had a sarcastic mouth and no romantic bones in my body. We bickered constantly, but we never actually got mad. It just added spice to the relationship. When Lunar New Year rolled around, I traveled with Camille to her hometown to visit her dad's grave. I stood in front of his tombstone, went into serious mode and said, "Sir, I promise I will take care of Camille for the rest of my life. I'm going to treat her right, so you can rest easy." Camille stood next to me, squeezing my hand with pure gratitude and peace. After the holidays, we headed back to our rented apartment to kick off a new year of hard work. I worked incredibly hard on my content creation. The channel blew up. I started taking high-paying brand deals, and our savings account was looking healthy. Camille scored a major career upgrade too, a way more relaxed, stable job with a better salary. No more toxic bosses or corporate injustice. She was glowing every single day. We were still living in that same 2-bedroom apartment, but it didn't feel like a temporary rental anymore. It was our home. Every single corner was packed with memories. In the mornings, we'd wake up together, I'd whip up breakfast while she tidied up the place. In the evenings, we'd cook dinner side by side, relax on the couch, and watch TV while trading office gossip. Sometimes, we'd look back at our humble beginnings in the old apartment and just burst out laughing. We'd joke about the broken door that couldn't lock, the water heater trying to shock us, her casually throwing my life's work into the trash, and me awkwardly carrying her to the ER. Camille looked at me one night and asked, "Hey, if I hadn't agreed to room with you, or if the landlord hadn't sold the building, or if I hadn't come back to you in the rain, do you think we would have missed each other forever?" I smiled and pulled her close. "Nah, even if we missed each other at first, it wouldn't be forever. People who are destined to end up together will always find their way back, no matter how many weird detours the universe throws at them. I would have run into you eventually, and I would have fallen for you all over again." It's crazy how the script flipped. We started with pure rejection and bad vibes, and ended up building a life together. What looked like a series of random coincidences was actually just fate doing its thing. Two lonely people in a massive, uncaring city found each other through a cheap roommate ad, fell in love through daily companionship, and turned a chaotic reality into something beautiful. Fast forward exactly 1 year, spring is back. The flowers are blooming outside our window, everything feels brand new, and we finally saved up enough for that down payment. We made it.
We actually did it! We found a sweet little 2-bedroom place with an amazing layout and tons of natural light, right next to Camille's office and completely perfect for my work-from-home grind. The day we signed the final paperwork, we stood there hand in hand, just staring at our new domain. With her eyes full of pure excitement and hope, Camille tackled me into a massive hug and cheered, "We finally have our own home!"
No more sketchy landlords, no more renting, no more packing boxes. From now on, this is ours, our home for life. I couldn't help but smile, my chest filling with absolute satisfaction. Looking back at where we started, from that sketchy, rundown, dumpster fire apartment to literally owning our own place, it felt surreal. We put in the work, we grinded together, struggled together, and now we finally secured a permanent spawn point. When moving day arrived, we didn't even bother calling backup. We kept it low-key, just the two of us quietly packing up our lives and carefully transporting every single memory-loaded item into the new house. I made sure to place that resurrected USB drive right in the most visible spot on my desk, the ultimate relic of how our story started. Right next to it, I set up the external hard drive she bought me back then, still packed to the brim with all my creative inspiration and our shared memories. We decorated the new place to be peak cozy, completely customized to our exact style. On our very first night in our official home, I whipped up an absolute feast, and we popped open a bottle of red wine to properly celebrate the start of our new life chapter. Camille sat across from me, the playful teasing completely gone, replaced by pure sincerity. She looked at me and said softly, "Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for always staying by my side and for giving me a real home." I lifted my glass, looking right back at her. "I'm the one who should be thanking you. Thank you for spawning into my life. You brought the warmth back into my world, and because of you, I'll never be lonely again." We clinked our glasses together, cementing the contract.